Bertrand, one short question. Times are tough for sustainability. How can we keep running?
I will try to provide some answers in my speech. I made a number of mistakes. First, it's true that you should not interrupt a marathon, so I feel guilty for that. Please accept my apologies. Second, naively, I thought I would have to speak in French. I will try to do immediate translation from my French notes into some hopefully not comprehensive as my predecessor, but comprehensible speech in English. So I'm obviously extremely happy and honored to join your event, Rethinking Sustainable Finance Together. I think every word matters. I mean, rethinking, we need to spend more time thinking and rethinking, obviously sustainable finance and together. It's been 10 months in February that we launched at the Collège de France PARC, the Paris Accord Research Common. L'Observatoire, in its French name, was there. But since February, a lot has happened. I think PARC has moved from infancy to being a teenager. We remain true to our mission. We have harvested the first successes, and in part thanks to many people in this room, actually. And today we are celebrating a wedding. Or a union, I mean, I'm trying to translate appropriately my French words, between l'Observatoire de la Finance Durable and 2DI. And I think there are not that many weddings today, in particular in France, that we cannot be very happy that for once people join forces and stop putting red lines everywhere. So I think it's great because we need strong actors today, actors which are recognized and whose qualities are acknowledged not only in France but also outside France internationally. The Sustainable Finance Observatory is already an important institution, and I believe it will continue to grow. It will rely more than ever on being focused on open data and transparency, on relying on methodological excellence. I think it's extremely important, and also developing more and more its advocacy program and its action to sensitize people to what's going on. I think we need all of this. You know all of this, and I don't want to repeat because you said it, you read it, but I think it's essential to remind everybody in this room of what's happening. I'd like also to take this opportunity to answer your question, thank you, and to put in perspective the efforts that we've made since February when we launched PARC. We are actually, it's been like this for several months, we have entered a phase which is at the same time more institutional, but also more challenging for sustainable finance. It's obviously more institutional, because everywhere efforts have been pursued. I mean, we mentioned PARC, and with our friend from l'Institut Louis Bachelier, but with everybody in this room, it's also more institutional in Europe. We just heard it. More institutional in the world. Again, I've joined at the request of the French Minister of Finance, the Board of Trustees of IFRS, and of course we see the development of ISSB. So there are a number of things happening. There are a number of taxonomies all over the world, etc. So we are moving in a world which is less the Wild West that was sustainable finance 10, 15 years ago. And it's not bad. I mean, institutions, sometimes they smell bureaucratic, but I think I like to remind the words of Jean Monnet, in particular after having heard our friends from Brussels. Jean Monnet used to say that there is nothing possible without man, there is nothing viable and sustainable without institutions. So I think it's good that we go through institutions. And so, of course, you are in this room both the men and women that made it possible and also creating the institution that will make it in the future. So I'd like to thank a number of people. It's a dangerous exercise. It's not like for the Oscar ceremony or at a wedding. You always forget to thank somebody. So of course, I'd like to thank Life and Cinea we just heard, in particular for the financing of the Finance Climate project. I'd like to thank all of you here. I hope under Raphael's control, because I checked with him who I should thank. So I think, so if there is somebody missing, it's not my fault, it's his fault, right? So the Climate Policy Initiative, the Net Zero Trackers, the World Wildlife Fund, the Rock Mountain Institute, Icebreaker, Data for good, climate dividends. I have a particular sympathy for climate dividends because I honored them with an AGFI trophy this year of Personality of the Year. Nuclear Transparency Watch, the European Environmental Bureau. Did I miss anybody? No, good. But it's also thank you all, it's also the occasion to remind everybody that all our projects, all our initiatives also need some money. Of course, I know it's not the purpose of our meeting tonight. I mean, money is being discussed everywhere, in particular with limited success at the Parliament. But budget are important issues. So we've made a lot of institutional progress, but we also must recognize that there are adverse winds. And these winds, they really reshuffle the order of priority for a number of decision makers. Be it the economic slowdown, be it the tax and fiscal stress in a number of economies, be it the pressure on a number of companies, be it the ESG backlash in the US and actually in a number of countries, which has become, unfortunately, a cultural fight. Of course, geopolitics, the accusation of green colonialism, the priority given to security and safety, the questions and doubts around AI, etc. All this makes the decision-making a little bit more complex than when the rates were at zero and everything was doing okay. And this list grows by the day. The big issue is that sustainability, unfortunately, has moved down in the pile. And we should not ignore that. It would be absurd, actually, to ignore that. This being said, a few months ago at the Climate Week, I was asked to discuss the state of sustainable finance in the world today. So I made my usual enthusiastic speech. At the end, a journalist, an American person, said, "Oh, Bertrand, it's so inspiring, it's great, but the reality is that it's no longer fashionable." I say, what? No, people are a little tired. There is a fatigue with sustainability. People want to be excited with something else. So I kind of played a little bit, and I kind of replied and say, well, I don't want to confuse Climate Week and Fashion Week, which basically get me some laughter in the room, but I wanted to be very serious. I mean, maybe it's not fashionable, but the reality is that 2024 will be another time the hottest year on record. There have never been that many refugees in the world. When I was managing director of the World Bank, there were 50 million refugees. Today, there are more than 100 million refugees. In less than 10 years, a doubling. And some of them are climate refugees. We know the UN perspective regarding above 3 degrees at the end of the century, and so on. I can continue the list of warnings. We all know this here. So it's not a question of being fashionable. It's a question of effort and being continuous in this effort. And it's precisely because people are tired that we have to be even more energetic, that we have to stay the course. But we have not to stay the course like being blind. We have to stay the course eyes wide open. The world is changing. That's why I think rethinking is extremely important. We have to rethink. We have to think about the narratives. Everybody says it's a fight of narratives. Everybody is playing the narratives everywhere. We have to find a narrative. We have to find a good way to convince people. I mean, in particular, again, the growing number, and it's very sad to say it's growing again, the growing number of skeptical and cynical people today. I thought that Pakistan being almost entirely flooded would be a tipping point. No. I thought that several dozens of thousands of square kilometers burned to ashes in Canada would be a tipping point. No. I saw that at the end of October this year, $500 billion of costs related to natural catastrophe in the US, including, actually, ironically, the Center for Monitoring Natural Catastrophe in North Carolina, would be a tipping point? No. And I could continue like this. So what will be the tipping point? I don't know. And of course, finance is not immune to these trends. Of course, we have launched a number of efforts. I mentioned the institutions. But let's face it, I've met a number of CEO and CFO in the past few weeks, past few months. The pressure is everywhere. The little music of, you know, sustainability is okay, but we need to be competitive. You hear that. We can't ignore that because there is truth into this. Look at what's being said on the vigilance. Look at what's being discussed on CSRD. Of course, CSRD is not perfect. But is it the moment to throw the baby with the water? Or should we, in a more smart manner, think about delaying some pressure, discussing sanctions, or even better, provide a serious and genuine way to support the efforts of people instead of blaming the people which are late. I'm also a little bit tired because we are not that many and we still are fighting sometimes religious wars. And again, I'm speaking with my IFRS hat. People say, oh, you have become American. And you know this is a fight between single, dual materiality, the American, the bad American, the good European, etc. I mean, the main provider of the IFRS budget is the EU. So these are not American. I think we have to get along together. Of course it's different. Of course there are nuances, etc. And of course these are important nuances. But again, do we want to become a religion? Do we want to transform the world? Or do we want to align a number of sects with different vision? I think this is what is at stake. And again, this is really part of the conversation we have all over the world today. Everybody is right, and everybody is swimming in his lane, and everybody thinks he is okay, and doesn't think that there are other people swimming in parallel lanes that we want to work together. I think we are the contrary here, and that's why I'm very happy to be here. So that's really, in this difficult moment, the peloton, like in the Tour de France, should not slow down, should not break apart. We are pedaling a little faster than the other in this room, and it's okay. I think we need that. It's our job, it's our duty, it's our responsibility to basically pull the rest of the peloton, to avoid that the peloton breaks apart, to avoid that the peloton, which for me is the biggest danger, is slowing down surreptitiously. Because everybody says, oh, this guy is slowing down. I say again, and step by step, the whole peloton is moving a little less faster. I think it's our job to coordinate together, join forces, and keep the peloton at the same speed. This is at the heart of the vocation of PARC. We have to work together, we have to think together. We have to avoid silos, we have to avoid walls, we have to avoid gaps, etc. All the time it's the fault of the other one. All the time, my red lines are okay, yours are not. So I think we have really to move away from this thing, and I think that's why it's extremely important, PARC, extremely important what you do today, extremely important that you unite force together today. I think it's crucial to succeed in making sustainable finance what we want it to become. We need to join public forces, private forces, academic forces, civil society forces. We need to stop suspecting others. We need to stop to jump to conclusions. We need to listen. We need to listen to each other. I think it's only at this price that we can get there. Ultimately, we need to rethink our methodology. We need to rethink, not methodology, we need to rethink our methods. We need to rethink our narrative. The fact that we are right, and I believe we are right, so no doubt about it, but being right does not suffice today. Actually, it never sufficed. We have a particular responsibility. We need to think sustainable finance. That's, of course, necessary. But we need also to sell sustainable finance, to make it a desirable object. We need never accept that sustainable finance stay at the margin of the unsustainable finance. That would be a complete failure. I've repeated this again and again and again, and sorry for those who have heard me. Our job, our responsibility is to transform the entirety of finance, not to construct, next to finance, a very nice natural park, a very nice fish tank, or a very nice protected area. That is not my job, that is not your job. That's why I think it's very important that we join forces, that in particular, research must be multi or pluridisciplinary. It must be at the heart of our efforts. It's really transforming the engine, transforming the operating system of finance. And that's why I'm very happy, and thank you all because the Sustainable Finance Observatory will join PARC as a founding member. And I think first of all, it's a great joy, but it's also a very important signal. So you're extremely welcome. We need that this wedding, union, or whatever you call it, work. I think we count on your team, we count on your members to help us. And of course, you can count on us, but maybe also on me, to help you. I'm totally confident. And more than that, actually, I'm enthusiastic. And there are not that many occasions to be enthusiastic these days, maybe with Notre Dame this weekend. But you will contribute to establishing new transparent methodology, robust methodology. I'm very happy, for instance, to see hopefully the partnership, the research partnership you have with the French development agency AFD. I hope that what you're going to do with the measuring and following the contribution of the public development banks, the financing commons, will make a difference. I've written a lot on this. I think it's crucial. I think there is a lot to do, and I will support you in that effort. But I don't want to start another 20 minutes of speech on that. I think this is one of the key to bridge the gap between the North and the South, to stop the suspicion that things are just talk and not walk. And the fact that, in particular, in terms of sustainable finance, this gap is getting bigger by the day despite all the promises, which is summarized. I remember I was with President Macron in Africa, and one person said, Mr. President, I'm going to be very brief. Where is the money? That's a good question. So I will ask you, and I'm coming to the end, to get two vaccines against mortal diseases. The first is a vaccine against more of the same. I'm done with more of the same. We have to think differently. It's not because we're going to do twice more of the same that we will be better. I think we really have to be innovative and change. In particular, I mentioned the narrative. That's the first mortal disease. The second mortal disease is not invented here. I've got my solution. I've got my little procedure. I've got my little bureaucracy. That's terrible. The idea is really to converge and work together. So I'm sure you already took the vaccine, actually. It's just a reminder. I also support the fact that you need to grow. So I hope that you will get many future members. Many also future financial supporters, sorry to be a little prosaic, to support your development. Everybody is welcome, whether you provide dollar, euro, but also you participate to some work, you participate to research, you participate to publishing, etc. I think everybody is welcome, it's important. Again, as a conclusion, we will succeed only if we are capable of working together. It's only on this occasion. There won't be 1,000 success, there will be one success, but 1,000 failure. I think we have a particular responsibility in this room. This responsibility is not always understood, but it's crucial. And let me finish by quoting an American president, Roosevelt, not Franklin Delano, but the other one, Theodore Roosevelt. He was a progressive era president at the beginning of the 20th century. He did a lot of things, including starting the National Park Administration in the US, also moving on the tax system, the Federal Reserve, etc., all the consumer protection. And one of his critics say, Mr. President, why are you advocating revolution? And he replied, I'm not advocating revolution. I'm advocating action to prevent revolution. And I think that's our responsibility. Thank you very much.